All right, here we go. The Stronger Together podcast is back. My name is Matthew Joseph, and I'm excited to be here sharing all of our FETC presenter voices, getting a chance for you to meet some of these individuals. And we're on a little bit of a streak. So I'm hoping you're tuning in because we have Bryan with us tonight, who is our third in a row first timer for FETC. So I know on the first interview that we did, we had Jen Wombold on, and she continues to say how she's trying to broaden the event, bring more people in. And Bryan, this is your first time FETC. You excited?
Oh, I'm really excited. No matter how many times or places you present, there's still a little bit of that, the throwback to the first day jitters or pregame, butterflies. And this is definitely, it feels like a step up. It's a big game atmosphere, but I'm excited. This is what I'm going to speak on is something I love and I use often, and it feels like a home run before the game started. Wow, a lot of baseball puns
A
in
lot
there.
of baseball. You had a little tennis one before we started, and now you're
That's
throwing
right.
some baseball in. And of course, it's the day that my Dolphins are losing to the Jets, so we'll just let that go. But
I was
you
going to
know,
rep my Washington, but I figured, one season can't make up for 30 bad years in a row,
yeah,
but
but you got to celebrate it when you have them. Let me tell you.
that's right. That's right.
So, for those who don't know you or the work you're doing, and I know you just had kind of a switch at the beginning of the year. It sounds like a great switch. Tell us who you are and the work that you do and where you do it.
Yeah, so I am in year 27 as far as education goes. Most of that was spent as a middle school science teacher, but somewhere in like 2014, I got a chance to go out and do some PBL work and get into the PBL coaching in STEM world. And I call it the master of all things shiny. I did a little of instructional tech, a little bit of coaching, and then I had an opportunity to run some really cool programs, electives in middle school and computer science before it was mandated. And so I kind of got a taste of the K-12 world. As much as I loved my middle school weirdos, and that's the teachers and the students there, it kind of sets the stage for how you look at the whole educational experience when you start working K-12. And so, yeah, I made a shift back in May to a neighboring district. It's a city district. It's a little bit bigger. I'm in a military community, so
Okay.
where I am is incredibly diverse, even though it's rural, which is odd in northern New York. So it's interesting. We get funding for all sorts of stuff, and that brings in the shiny, but somebody's got to be willing to get that into the classroom in ways that make sense for teachers and for kids. And that's pretty much what I love to do. So give me something shiny and let me find a way to make your life better. And I'm going to be happy in that process.
No, that's awesome, and I always admire folks like yourself. I had Dan Thomas on last episode, and it always impresses me the true educators who go in and bring the fun, bring the dynamic thinking. Like, where does that come from? Like, where is that spark for you that each and every day? I know for me personally, that wasn't something that kept me in the classroom, and why I went a
Yeah.
different route and went into the principal side. Um, so I always get impressed when I hear people to do that. So tell us a little bit about your passion to do that, because you've been doing it, as you said, over 20 years.
Yeah, and it's before I even knew that other people use the word innovative, I just considered it being easily bored. And so it
True.
was, it really, I hate to say it's like a little altruistic, I'm like, I can't do this job the same way, year in and year out. So I had to find something to keep it interesting for me. And you mentioned something to me before. For those people who don't know, I wrote a book about burnout because I was there. And one of your comments was like, burnout sometimes is I'll paraphrase you, was like a shift in how you approach the job. And honestly, when I started thinking in terms of, wait a minute, I have to make this about me, because kids are never going to do well from a teacher who hates their job. And not that I ever did, but I was constantly trying to find my own fun in the midst of it, knowing that if I was having fun, the kids were definitely going to have a better experience. And it's funny now, like 27 years in, I'm like, there wasn't a label for, I guess maybe I fall in the neurodivergent, kind of weird. And I say to people, that to me is a blessing, because I felt like it was, I never want to stop learning. I wanted to explore everything. I'm into just about everything kind of on a surface level. I play guitar, but I can't read music. I can't sing real well. Like it just was because I wanted to be interested. And now I'm seeing where that allowed me to connect with every kind of kid. And I'm looking at it now because it was weird leaving the classroom. I mean, I'm sure you felt this. Like you feel like a traitor almost, like, oh, you moved to the dark side. But now I'm like, I get to make a bigger impact at the loss of personal connection with the kids in the same way. So that's my weirdo.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I think I got mine at a different kind of role where so what I remember saying that to you, and I do believe it, that you don't get burned out because of the job, you get burned out because you move away from why you got in the job. And I think when I left being a principal, I had that mindset. I was like, I loved being in a school. I wasn't a great teacher, I was good enough, but I knew I could motivate, I could get the school culture going like that. I love that, which led me like, I want to do this for a full district, but it pulled me out of the school and I lost that kind of purpose. And although I had an important job and running curriculum, I needed to get back into a role which I'm in now, and I love it, where I'm the assistant superintendent of technology and learning, and I get to go in the classrooms. I run
Yeah.
PD, so I'm like the fun uncle because I get to leave though, so I'm okay with that.
I call it the grandparent job.
Yeah,
I
whatever.
I
I'm
have all
not.
the fun, cause a bunch of problems. They clap when I leave.
Yes, absolutely. So you brought this up. I was going to go into it in a little minute, but I wanted to bring it up first. You wrote a book, as you said, recalculating. Oh no, reallocating.
No, recalculating. You're right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I got. And then I was like, oh my gosh, in real time. So to us about what this book is. Are you bringing some to Florida?
I hadn't thought about it, to be honest, but I think I will now that you mention it. And
Absolutely.
honestly, if everybody remembers when we went from MapQuest, and I hold my hand up because there was always that booklet of
Yeah,
paper that you hung, obstructing your view. Before we could look at our screens, we were looking at printouts of screens
sure.
for directions. And then when GPS started to come out in cars, if you didn't trust it, it would recalculate, right? And so honestly, your comment to me was just another way of looking at what was at the heart of that book, which was I had gotten off track. And you can say that the direction steered you wrong, the job changed, you changed. It doesn't matter. And this is the one thing I say to people: you can blame, but you'll never move forward. The second you realize, I don't want to be where I am, and you've either decided on a new destination or you're asking for the path out, then you're recalculating, right? And so a lot of this is, I'm 50, and I know, this is
Mhm.
the midlife, I guess they call it, and instead of a crisis, unraveling. But it really hit me at that time of my life where I'm trying to say, I only want to do what I deem valuable, and I want to go all in on what I think is most important. And up until that point, I had too many irons in the fire. I was being pulled in too many directions and I wasn't taking care of myself. So I didn't have the energy. I didn't have what I needed to make the greatest impact in what mattered the most to me. And that process of going through that, coming out of what I would call burnout, is that book. And I wish I may rewrite it. I
Mhm.
know we've kind of talked about that. You continue to learn, and there's so many things that I've learned since then that are going to come out of me one way or another. But yeah, so I noticed that there are teachers that lose their way, right? If we're using that GPS kind of metaphor,
Sure.
for various reasons. And some people, the job has shifted. Everybody knows that. But if the job has shifted so much that you can't be a positive influence to those kids, or you can't find a way out where it's healthy for you, then by all means, please shake off any shame or judgment and just go do something that makes you happy. But that's why I tell people, like, if you're burning out, getting out, or bugging out, I can't remember what my alliteration thing was, then I felt like the book was for you. Because if you were leaving education because you are salty and not seasoned, then then it may help you in your next endeavor. And if not, maybe you just get some cool, sarcastic humor out of it, and then my job is done as well. So
No, absolutely. And now you're expanding that reach because you're coming to Orlando, you're going to FETC. I've said it many times. It's one of my favorite events because it brings so many people together. Everybody has something to share, and you're going to be sharing for 2 hours
yeah.
on Tuesday. Animate to Innovate. So it's Tuesday at 8 o'clock. It'll be 2 hours starting at 8:30 in South 210B. And I put up Brian's X handle if you want to follow him on most of the socials. I think I saw you have the same one
Yeah.
at Class Kicker.
Yep.
So for those who are looking through, and there's a lot on that
Yeah.
agenda day one, what are they to expect in your class, in your workshop, and what is your goal for that?
It all came out of, for me, this basic idea that we're testing the crap out of kids, and only because somebody above us said we should. And it doesn't mean we throw all assessment out the window, but we can assess in a lot of different ways. And whenever you give kids ownership to create something out of the lesson with their own language, meaning, visuals, skill set, it's going to be more powerful. And so I saw this at first in my own classroom as a science teacher. I put a heart diagram up there. I'm actually going to bring
Mhm.
this one with me, and had the kids animate blood flow through the heart. And it blew me away how easily they could demonstrate to me that they understood, that I never
Mhm.
needed to quiz or test them. And every kid's was different, right? And
Mhm.
so from there was like all these crazy projects where kids were like, can we animate that? Yeah. And
Right.
so it's like this UDL thing, right? Why do I care what method you use to demonstrate your learning? And that's part of it. If this is what you want to do, it's just another tool. You show me you understand, then we're good and we can move on. And so I compiled a bunch of different ways that teachers across the board, I've used this from second grade all the way up through seniors, in
Mhm.
different, various different platforms. Brush Ninja is the one I use the most, but somewhere in like ninth or 10th grade, it starts to get a little kiddish. And then there's a couple other tools that have like actual code you can drop in to make your animations interactive. And the kids are way better than I am at that. But the processes of saying like demonstrate learning, to curate your learning in a way it's sense making, really, in a modern, tech forward way that speaks this digital native language, uh, it just makes the job so much easier because the kids are owning the learning.
Sure. And so you brought something up. I want to dive into that. You have a little video on a
Yeah.
blog you wrote about Brush Ninja. So talk us through what this program does, and why you find that students get that autonomy in learning in there.
So I think Brush Ninja, one, it's free. I'm
There
still
you
trying to
go.
work my way in there with like, hey man, I'm promoting your product. There's a
Absolutely.
premium thing that you don't really need, but it's very simple. It's just like, the days of Microsoft Paint. And so the barrier to entry is super low, but the individual expression is wide open. And so it's a great starting place for kids to be able to animate simple processes. We've done vocab words. Like I have give a kids a word and say, hey, turn the word into the object or the action, and through animation. So I could show you once of fifth graders, it's the word ball, and all the letters kind of curve into a ball, and then it bounces away. And the kids realize, I call it trash to flash,
I like it.
because their first thing always sucks, but they don't stop. It's this fail forward thing. And so I bring that right out in the beginning. I'm like, we are gonna make something that really sucks. We're gonna celebrate it and then act like it never happened and use those skills to make something flashy. And it's like a permission thing, right? So it's just simple drawing tools in a frame by frame animation, and it gets kids into that creative mode where they could draw
Sure.
stick figures. And some kids that are really artistic just start blowing you away. And so now you're going, hey, come here, look at what, what Susie did, look at what this student did. And there's a pride that starts to happen when students are not only sharing their work, but I'm using a kid's animation for the water cycle in my Kahoot and in my Google quiz, a Google form quiz that was literally, those graphics were generated by students while we were learning the content. And I guarantee they're never going to get that question wrong because they
Wow.
created it. It's powerful.
Yeah, and for I'm going to throw this into the chat, or I'm going to put it across the bottom of the screen, because I just showed you a picture of the blog that Brian wrote, but he has a lot more on his website. So go check out kicksomeclass.com. One of the things that I talked about, so that screenshot and video was part of this larger article, The Science of Animation in Education. So Now those look like young kids there. They can do that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely stole that from Pexels or Pixabay or something, but
Right.
I can say that at the end of first grade, depending on the device kids have, they're capable. And if anybody, if you've got an iPad handy and you want to like, hey, I'm not going to be there on Tuesday to make your session, Brian, that's fine. Just let me know so I can black button. No, I'm just kidding. But there's a bunch of things out there. Flip a Clip is one that kids come in and they're like, oh, I've done this, or they might have, what is it, Stickman or something. There's a couple of apps out there, but that's just one type of animation. Some kids have done claymation. They've done the old Lego animation, stop motion stuff on an iPad. So
Sure.
they've done, maybe they've done paper origami type. It almost looks like a ransom letter. I mean, that might be taking it a little dark, but you could just
No,
by
I get it. I
just
get it.
yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways, and then Adobe Express, another free one, does some really cool things, and so it's really, I would say the two things that I want to share is it has nothing to do with Brush Ninja. These things,
Mhm.
it just is the tool that I like to use to introduce people and then let them go their own way. But the article that you popped up there is really, I like to do three things in my sessions. I like to do a mini keynote. I like to do a mini gallery, and then I like to do a mini workshop. And in this case, it's 2 hours. So the workshop is going to be 75%. But
That's awesome.
the keynote piece is important because I look at it, if you know Simon Sinek's work, it's the why. And you can go to any workshop and but if you can't answer that question when you leave, oh wait, why would I do what this guy or this woman is telling me to do? Then either sit there and figure it out before you go to another session, or think that through. So for me, I want to put that right up front. This is why. And there's so much in the cognitive sciences about visuals, and then in psychology that talks about the motivation and engagement piece. And so that's what's in that article. I'm going to be leading with that. So if you're planning on coming to my session, you can sound smart like you already know the answers by reading the article, or don't read it and you'll get it live and in person. But I think it's important, to talk about. I feel like we have an epidemic of engagement right now, of lack of engagement, and our issue is not that we can't figure out curriculum. We've beat it to death. We know
Sure.
what kids need to learn. We actually are doing pretty good on how to get them to learn. The question is, do they want to learn? Do they care? And
Right.
I feel like the job of the shiny guy is to find new and interesting ways to re-engage kids to own the learning. And then we've got them. So
Yeah.
that's just a great tool for it.
And another thing I pulled from that blog I wanted to talk about, and I'm guessing what just from even listening to you in this short little bit, but I've seen your work that you're going to run your workshop like this. You're talking about how to incorporate active learning into the classroom, into this blog's about animation. So tell me about a time you've done this, that you did a complex concept, had students storyboard. Walk us through what this is talking about.
Yeah, so I think probably the first time was the water cycle. Like I always call them the shun words, and it's a process. But as soon as I got the idea that, like, wait a minute, why do I care what the end product looks like if in the middle I'm having rich conversations with kids over how they achieve a certain process in their animation. It's like it's a back door. And
Sure.
so I there's a phrase that came out of this, and anybody listening to this is going to catch up. Apparently, all teachers love this alliteration piece, but I say, like, model the process and never the product. And I think the light bulb, maybe sort of answering your question, is that we used to show kids a worksheet, a blank, semi-blank diagram. Hey,
Sure.
I want evaporation, I want condensation, I want precipitation, I want collection. Maybe that's the middle school version, and but it was, you could grade it just by scanning it with your eyes super fast. But actually having a conversation with a kid over, oh, your lake dried up when the sun came out. That's amazing. And so it was, if I modeled the process of how you created something that demonstrated you understood, then I don't care what the end product really looks like. And
Sure.
so it just, from there, it started going, okay, what are the other processes that are maybe complex that and here's his side note. You have to be willing to give the time, and maybe it's not give, it's invest the time in the
Right.
creation process. Because I could do this lesson in 10 minutes. I could give them a worksheet, a homework, or whatever traditional style and feel like a quick move on. But if I'm giving up 40 minutes, 60 minutes, like a group gallery walk, feedback, a second iteration, I got to really believe there's some magic in the process that goes beyond the time I would normally give it. And I wholeheartedly do.
That's awesome. So we established at the beginning that this is the first time there. Is there some things that you're really looking forward to?
Uh, so we can blur this out. No, I'm kidding. I have not looked at the schedule
Okay.
because my session is first thing, first day. So my all of my energy at this point has been like, okay, I am going to like deliver some quality as best that I can, and then I'll I'll pick it out. But I'm pretty sure I'll look through at least specifically that day. I can say for me, my new role is focused on graduation through the barrier of algebra. And so you're finding this in New York State. I don't know how it is the rest of the country, but kids that don't pass algebra 1 on time are pretty much behind the 8 ball to get
Absolutely.
the credit that they need, right? So with everything else I do in the STEM ecosystem world, from computer science, robotics, 3D printing, is where am I going to find sessions that help me bring math concepts out of the abstract and back into the concrete, tangible, put them in kids' hands. And so I would say if there's one thing that's really going to be on my radar as I'm scanning sessions, it's probably going to be that.
Awesome. Now, you do a lot of different kind of work in your role. Is there any vendors, any solution providers that you are really excited to go? The vendor hall is huge. I mean, I know we were just at NiceGate, times that by like three.
Yeah, I always get like, I mention Shiny all the time because I could easily get overwhelmed. And everybody has been to a big conference. There's this weird you don't make eye contact with certain salesmen, and I only say that because if you're not in a position to spend the money, then I've looked at one guy who was like, "We already have your product." He's like, "Dude, thanks for saving me the time." Because he was just about to like
Right.
try to corner me off and
Sure.
put and so there's a bit of that I'm always like, "Oh man, I hate the vendor floor." But then I love the robotics, this simple, the things that integrate like computer science. They're modular, they're expandable, like it's not cookie cutter, it's very wide open, because for somebody like me, that just gives me the freedom to go, oh, you're working on this, I think I can come up with something, so
Right.
I look at it as almost like where's my golf bag of clubs that I can pull out and help a fifth grade teacher or an
I
eighth
like
grade
that.
teacher that's struggling. So but as I mentioned before, in a military community, we do great as far as the grant funding goes. So we have a lot of those resources. Yeah, so it's a weird mix of oh man, and trying to
Sure.
find the perfect thing.
Well, that is awesome. Thanks for taking some time for us, sharing your session on Tuesday, and then you're going to
Yeah,
be there the whole week. So
yeah.
if you get a chance, make sure on Tuesday morning, 8:30, check out Brian's session. You're going to hear all about that animation, active learning. Make sure to, if you haven't already, checked out his book. Get to see all the great things. You can follow him on social medias at Class Kicker. And we're just excited to get moving and have you join us down in Orlando.
I can't wait. Thanks so much, Matt.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I'll get to see you sign up for that pickleball event. I just sent it to you. It's going to be a
I
fun time.
just copied it. We're ready to go.
All right, first time as well. And for all of you out there who are listening and watching, keep tuning in. We're about a week away. I'm going to be launching an episode each day to ensure that you get your fill of presenters, to get to know what they're presenting, to see what fits for you, and to add it to your schedule. And then don't forget, we'll be podcasting live in Orlando all day Tuesday and half day Wednesday to share those voices and be part of the event. So, Brian, we look forward to seeing you at FETC.
All right. Thanks, Matt. See you there.
See ya.